فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى أولى لك فأولى ثم أولى لك فأولى. Thus he neither testified nor prayed. On the contrary, he denied and turned away. Then he went away to his people conceitedly. Woe be to you! Yes, again, woe be to you! And again, woe be to you! Yet again, woe be to you! Depicted in these verses is the state of deprivation of these disbelievers of the hereafter. The journey is very exacting. They have no resources and provisions to take along. They have neither offered the prayer to the Almighty nor spent in His way, even though these were the two deeds which were to be of use to them in this journey. An ellipsis of the word bil-husna has occurred after saddaqa because of strong linguistic indications. In Surah Layl, this expression is expressed thus: فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. So he who gave in the way of God and was God-fearing and attested to the good fate of the hereafter, we shall make him traverse an easy path. Surah number 92, verses 5 to 7. It needs to be kept in consideration that spending in the way of God is very difficult for people who do not believe in the hereafter and the good fate encountered there. This abyss can only be crossed by those whose hearts are satisfied that whatever they will spend shall be returned to them in the form of an eternal treasure in the hereafter. It is this belief in the reward of the hereafter which motivates a person to spend in the way of God. Those who deny it are never induced to such a spending. In Surah Al-Layl, the verses succeeding the ones quoted earlier portray this fact thus: وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. And he who showed miserliness and was indifferent and belied the good fate, we shall make him traverse an arduous path. Surah number 92, verses 8 to 10. In the light of these verses, the meaning of Fala Saddaqa will be that the person neither attested to the good fate of the hereafter, nor did he spend in the way of the Almighty. In other words, the meanings of both rejecting the hereafter and stinginess are implied in this expression. After this, the words are Wala Salla, or and he did not pray. In other words, the real motive for spending in the way of God and offering the prayer is belief in reward in the hereafter. When this belief is non-existent in them, how can these deeds emanate from these people? Here once again, let us refresh what is so often expressed in this tafsir. It is on the prayer and spending in the way of God, the two primary deeds, that the Sharia is based. It is evident from this verse that both of these are themselves dependent upon belief in the hereafter. People in whom this belief is not strong will not be able to undertake them. In the verse, وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى, the word كَذَّبَ occurs in contrast to صَدَّقَ, and the word تَوَلَّى occurs in contrast to صَلَّى. In other words, what was befitting for them was to testify to the messenger and to the hereafter and spend in the way of God and offer the prayer to Him. However, they belied the hereafter and became indifferent. The verse ثُمَّ ذَهَبَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ يَتَمَطَّى portrays this indifference, and a little deliberation will show that the reason for this indifference has also been referred to in it. When people whose wealth and children have made them arrogant are reminded to fear God and the hereafter, such reminders have no effect on them. They think that their affluence and abundance in family members is a sure sign of them being on the right path. For this reason, they do not entertain the reminders of people who try to point out their folly. Instead of being influenced by such reminders, they considerately take a walk to their family, arrogantly thinking their prosperity and riches to be a clear sign of their correctness. Moreover, they go as far as to think that the real fault lies in people who themselves are bereft of prosperity and yet are sounding such reminders and admonitions. Here one should keep in mind what the Qur'an mentions very frequently in various styles. The believers live amongst their family members, continuously fearing the Almighty, lest they are not able to properly care for the family and in this way earn God's wrath in any way. This sense of responsibility on the part of the believers is expressed thus in the Qur'an. قَالُوا إِنَّا كُنَّا قَبْلُ فِي أَهْلِنَا مُشْفِقِينَ. Or, they will say, we have always remained fearful in the matter of our family. Surah number 52, verse 26. Exactly opposite is the attitude of people whose hearts are devoid of God's fear. They regard their family to be a source of pride and conceit, and as a clear sign of their good fortune. For this reason, they are in the state of inebriation mentioned in the anecdote of the companion of an orchard in Surah Kahf in these words, مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. Or, I don't reckon that this will ever perish. Surah number 18, verse 35. The mentality of such people is mentioned thus in Surah Mutaffifin, وَإِذَا انْقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ انْقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. And when they would return to their people, they would return engrossed. Surah number 81, verse 31. In the verses, أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى ثُمَّ أَوْلَى لَكَ فَأَوْلَى, the word awla is from wail, which is used for expressing anger, reproach, and hatred. In classical Arabic, this word is used abundantly. For example, Khansa says, هممت بنفسي كل الهموم فأولى لنفسي أولى لها. I made many intentions about my soul. What a pity on my soul. What a pity. Some Urdu translators have translated it as befitting, which is against Arabic principles and also not in accordance with the context. In the previous verses, the address was indirect. Here in these verses, the address has become direct. This change in address is to express sorrow and hatred. I have alluded to this aspect at various places in this tafsir. أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى أَلَمْ يَكُ نُطْفَةً مِّن مَّنِيٍّ يُمْنَى ثُمَّ كَانَ عَلَقَةً فَخَلَقَ فَسَوَّى فَجَعَلَ مِنْهُ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادِرٍ عَلَىٰ أَن يُحْيِيَ الْمَوْتَى. Does man think that he will be left to go unchecked? Was he not a mere drop of sperm poured forth? Then he became a clot of blood, and then God created him and then perfected him, then made pairs of him, male and female. Is not God able to raise the dead to life? Here in these verses, the surah ends on the very subject with which it began. In the beginning it was said, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن لَّن نَّجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ بَلَىٰ قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُّسَوِّيَ بَنَانَهُ. Or, does man think that we will not be able to bring together his bones? Why not? We can put him together, even his very finger sections. After that, the discourse had shifted to man's arrogance and his deliberate concealment of the truth, and to the portrayal of the horrific events of the Day of Judgment. Now here at the end, this question is raised again and answered. Do people who express their doubt on being raised to life again after death think that man will be left unaccountable? If leaving him unaccountable is against the justice and wisdom of the Almighty, how will recreating him again be difficult for the Almighty? Does he not reflect on the various stages of his creation? His creation begins with a drop of fluid being poured forth in the mother's womb. The passive tense in the word yumna points to a lack of attention and any elaborate arrangement. The person who pours it forth has nothing more to do with it after this act. He has no knowledge of what happens to it and what it undergoes. All later stages and developments in it are done by Providence, which, with remarkable creativity, makes it pass through various stages encompassed in layers of darkness. The drop of fluid becomes a clot of blood. Then it is brought into shape and later perfected. Finally, it emerges in the form of a man or a woman. In all these stages, it is Providence which fashions and molds it. No one else has any role in this. Therefore, man needs to realize that the God whose signs of power, wisdom and creativity can be so abundantly seen in this way in a human being is amply capable of recreating him once he dies. With the grace of God, with these lines, I come to the end of this surah's tafsir. وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ, or gratitude be to him in this world and in that to come. Rahmanabad, 19th January 1979 AD, 19th Safar 1399 AH.